Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about whether or not Bitcoin's low volatility that characterized the month of October is finally starting to come to an end. As you can see here over the last week or so, Bitcoin has been moving up rather than moving sideways as it had done for the last month or so, and we're finally seeing a little bit of volume come back into the space as well. Not only on Bitcoin are we seeing this, we're seeing this on many different altcoin markets. If we come here to the main chart, we can see that XRP is taking off like a rocket ship lately, and Bitcoin Cash did a similar thing just a couple of days ago. It seems that the altcoins are seeing a lot of volatility come back. It seems that Bitcoin's volume is rising, and Bitcoin is finally moving. So with all of this in mind, we have to ask ourselves the question, is Bitcoin's low volatility coming to an end, and is so too the accumulation phase, which I believe Bitcoin has been in for 2 months or so? We're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's video, so without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing that I want to discuss is Bitcoin's little movement to the upside right here. As we saw in the last several videos, Bitcoin had been in this triangle consolidation pattern with an uptrend right here and a downtrend right there. Bitcoin did finally breach that after coming up and testing it as a level of resistance a couple of days ago. We can see here that Bitcoin had a little bit of a fall off, a very nice bounce, traded sideways, and got above this downtrend of resistance, seeing a bit of a volatile movement come here and break a downtrend of resistance. And we hadn't actually seen that come out of Bitcoin in quite some time. Bitcoin, for example, had been trading under another much longer term downtrend of resistance that you could draw something like this, which I'm not really taking into consideration anymore. But Bitcoin had traded straight sideways into this many times. Several times back over here, we traded sideways out of it and didn't see a breakout above a downtrend of resistance. We just kind of ignored it. But now we have actually seen a breakout of a downtrend of resistance, which is something that is characterizes a highly volatile and highly liquid market. Something that I'm very happy to see, and something that I hope, a trend that I very much hope continues. But nevertheless, we did see Bitcoin jump up here, and this is obviously a very volatile movement considering what we've seen in the last several weeks. We saw Bitcoin, like I said, trade completely sideways here for about 2 weeks. We saw about 1% trading range for over 2 weeks, and it was definitely not exactly a very interesting time in the market. And based on price action recently on Bitcoin, that seems to be coming to an end. So let's go ahead and do the crypto market recap, and then we'll get on to the rest of the topics included in today's video. Bitcoin across all exchanges is currently trading just a little bit over $6,424. And we look down here, Tether. I want to point out Tether because Tether is something that we've been following here for a little while, since it's not hovering around $1 where it's supposed to be. Tether is back below 99 cents. So it's over a penny away from where it's supposed to be, and that does help lead to the discrepancy that we've seen between price action on the Coinbase chart, which we use normally right here, and the Bitfinex chart, which we used to use right here. We can see that there's quite a bit of a discrepancy, about a $60 difference right there, that I'm really not all that happy to see. I would like Tether to start trading at $1 again, but that really just comes down to the trust of the cryptocurrency community and whether or not they trust in the Tether project and will actually trust in it enough to use it and keep it at that $1 price level where it should be. The next couple of things I want to talk about have to do with the top 3 altcoins, Ethereum, XRP, and Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin having its volatility return is not just relegated. It's not just something that happens in the Bitcoin market. When you see something major happen on Bitcoin, or indeed when you see something major happen in many large cap altcoins, you typically see the same thing happen in the other categories. So if something big happens to Bitcoin, typically something big is happening to the altcoins and vice versa. So what we've seen recently is we've seen a little bit of price action, a little bit of market volatility come back to Bitcoin, and I think that's carrying through to the sentiment in the altcoins as well, because as you can see here in the 7-day price graphs, these top 3 and honestly top 4 altcoins, including EOS, have been doing quite well over the last week. We've seen a lot of more volatile movements than we had over the last month or so. We saw Ethereum jump up several percentage points here earlier in the week. XRP has had a very, very good day. As you can see over the last 48 hours, it's done very well, and XRP actually surpassed Ethereum for about 15 minutes or so earlier on today before I record this video. A little bit of a mini flippening that's happened several times this year so far. And Bitcoin Cash, of course, if you watch yesterday's video, I'll link that in the top right, we saw that Bitcoin Cash was doing very well with the announcement of a Bitcoin Cash hard fork coming up in about a week and a half. So we've seen the altcoins have a lot of volatility return to them. And that's a very, very big thing, because one thing that you have to realize about impending Bitcoin bull markets and bear markets is that a lot of times the altcoins are not in perfect synchronization with Bitcoin. Sometimes they lag behind Bitcoin, and sometimes they will tell you of movements coming in Bitcoin because they are the progenitors to a movement in Bitcoin. And I think this might be what we're seeing right now. We're seeing these altcoins pop off like popcorn kernels, and I feel a little bit of bullish tension in the Bitcoin market, and I feel like we are going to start moving up from here. I'm not just saying that, guys. When you're in the market for a very long time, when you've been working in a market literally every single day for the last 18 months and a little bit before that, then you eventually you're going to start getting a gut feeling. And I have a weird feeling that a lot of this low volume is starting to, low volatility is starting to come to an end, and that we are going to start seeing a little bit more upwards price action, considering how well we have defended the support levels on Bitcoin, all of the support levels on Bitcoin, and broken the resistance levels. And also, we have to factor that into some long-term technical analysis, but I'll get to that later on in the video. Anyway, let's do the actual crypto market recap now instead of the main point of today's video. If we go ahead and sort by change over the last 24 hours here, we can see Digitex futures is up by about 30%. Its future is looking bright. I think I'm going to make that a segment. I'm going to try and make a pun about the biggest gainers and biggest losers. Anyway, XRP is up by about 15%. And we do see that the altcoin markets are doing kind of okay right now. It's pretty neutral. We do see about the same number of gainers as we do losers. And Ravencoin is down here at about -8%. Couldn't think of a pun on that one. Anyway, one thing I did want to talk about is volume for the total cryptocurrency markets, because this is something that you can loosely correlate to volatility in the markets, is volume in the markets. I'm saying very loosely because it's a corollary, it's not a causal relationship. But this is something that I want to point out because it does indicate something. What we've seen here over the last month is the total, I almost said Bitcoin market, Bitcoin volume, overall cryptocurrency volume has been very, very, very low, guys. For the last month, most of October, most cryptocurrency volume was hovering right around $10 billion in market volume, as you can see right down here, and market cap was hovering at around $200 to $210 billion. We saw that sideways trading action, and of course, when Bitcoin is trading sideways and when there's low volatility, that very, very closely correlates with very low volume, and we did see very low volume here. But over the last week or so, we've seen that volatility and that volume and that market cap number continue to rise. We saw a little bit of a dip right here in total market cap when Bitcoin came here and had this little drop off right here. But one thing that we have seen after that is that total market capitalization has started going up right here. You can see it started curving up right here. And so too, look at this number on the tooltip right there on the bottom where it says 24-hour vol. That has continued to rise. As I scroll back here, see that? How that's continued to rise up here, 14, 15, $16 billion in total market volume. That is a very good sign, because what we want to see is liquidity come back into the market. We want to see volatility come back into the market. And one of the easiest ways to get volatility to come back into the market is to see more volume in the market, and vice versa. Both of those things work back and forth. It's not really a causal relationship, but a lot of times they do play on each other, and a lot of times you do see them correlate very closely. That's why whenever I talk about Bitcoin having high volatility, a lot of times you'll see that high volume will happen on the same day that we've seen a highly volatile move. Because of course, if there's a highly volatile move, well, there's more money to be made, so more people are interested in the market, putting more money into the market, and it kind of exacerbates itself and snowballs on itself, and we see more volume and volatility come back into the market. And that's what we've seen over the last week or so here. We've seen Bitcoin moving up, so too has volume, and that kind of puts this little bit of a domino effect in place where we see both continuing to rise, and I hope that continues for Bitcoin to move up here to around $6,800, which is the next major level of resistance that I'm looking at Bitcoin to go to, right up around there. Some people were asking about that during the premiere in yesterday's video. That's the major level of resistance I was looking at. Anyway, with all that out of the way, I want to go ahead and summarize everything I've just said, because I did just say a lot, and we do still have some more stuff to get to. Bitcoin has seen its volatility continue to rise over the last week or so. We've seen volume continue to rise over the last week or so. Those are two very, very good signs, very healthy signs for the market. Those trends are ones that I would like to see continue. We've seen the altcoins start to do very, very well. We've seen Ethereum get away from support levels of $200 down here. We've seen XRP do very, very well and get away from support levels of around 45 cents, which, by the way, I'm very happy for, because I have a trade in on XRP right now that I bought into about a week ago. We've seen Bitcoin Cash do quite well. We saw Bitcoin Cash have a major rally just a couple of days ago. As you can see, it was trading at about 2/3 of the valuation it is now. Very, very big gains have been made on Bitcoin Cash in just the last week, and I don't think this is the end of it. It may be the end of it for the time on the altcoins, because these top 3 altcoins have moved very, very quickly, and they do need some time to cool down. I would be very careful of buying into any 3 of these right now, especially Bitcoin Cash, because if that's not an overextended market, I don't know what is. But I don't think it's the end for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin hasn't really seen a major breakout following the break of this downtrend of resistance. We did see a little 1% move right here or so, something like this, but we didn't see a major move, and I think we're going to see a little bit more coming into the next week or so. And I do like that this trend of low volatility seems, for the time being anyway, to be coming to an end, and I do like the idea that it may be coming to an end considering where we are in relation to the long-term technicals here on Bitcoin. And I want to go ahead and talk about the long-term technicals as well, because that's a very important thing. I'm thinking about the videos that I want to add to the course, and there's one video that I'm going to be adding to the course by the end of this month, and that's talking about the convergence of long-term trends and short-term trends. And it's very, very important that you understand when you're doing your technical analysis that you can be bullish or bearish on the short term and also be the exact opposite on the long term. You can be bearish for the short term and bullish on the long term. And a lot of people get confused about that with me, because I'll say, well, I'll say in one video, well, I'm bearish, and then the video before that I'd say I'm bullish, but I'm talking about two different time frames. I may say I'm bullish for the next 6 months, but I'm bearish for the next 2 days. Those are two very different things, and you can be bullish and also bearish at the same time in relation to different intervals of time. But when you see long-term technicals and short-term technicals line up, then a lot of times that's where you see major market movements come from. A lot of times when you see the short-term technicals look bearish and the long-term technicals look bearish, that's going to exacerbate the problem that you are going to see when the new downtrend starts, and vice versa. When you see very bullish short-term technicals line up with very bullish long-term technicals, a lot of times you see some very bullish price action, and that's what I want to discuss here, because I've talked about in the last several months that we seem to be entering an accumulation phase, that we've been in one for the last 2 months or so. I said that right over here, sometime in about halfway through September, we entered what I am calling an accumulation phase, which we've seen before in the Bitcoin market, and which you normally see in markets in between bear markets and bull markets. And right now it seems that we're in an accumulation phase. What characterizes an accumulation phase? Remember what I said. I said what characterizes an accumulation phase is very low volume and very low volatility. Let me direct you to this chart I just showed you a second ago. What do we see rising right now? What do we see rising? Well, one, we see market capitalization rising, so there's more valuation moving into the space. But two, we also see volume coming back into the space. And as of about a week ago, starting a week ago, we've seen a lot of volatility come back into the space. And that's a very good sign, because what does that mean? Well, that means that the short term is looking, one, bullish, and two, it's looking like the exit of an accumulation phase. And what does the long term look like? Well, the long term looks like we're in an accumulation phase, and that we should be expecting Bitcoin to make some upwards bullish movements with a lot of volatility and volume coming back into the market over the next 3 months or so. So those two trends, the short term trend and the long term trend, are aligning, and I'm very, very, very happy to see that, because that's exactly what I was hoping would happen starting about 3 months ago, when I started to realize that this is what we're doing. We're going into an accumulation phase. It's going to last for a couple of months, then it's going to turn around, and we're going to slowly grind our way back up to all-time high over the next 12 to 18 months. And that's what it seems like is starting right now. I don't want to blow this little movement out of proportion. Of course, this little movement may be absolutely nothing. Bitcoin could come back down here and test $6,000 in the next month, but there is definitely a chance right now that what we're seeing is the beginning of a new rally that will be bringing us out of the accumulation phase. I talked about in yesterday's video, I'll link that in the top right as well if you're not watching during the premiere, about why this could be the beginning of a new rally. I'm not going to get into it in today's video, but a rally can bring you out of an accumulation phase. Now, also, it could be a fake out. Like I said, guys, we don't know yet. This is technical analysis. These are markets. They're not exactly the most predictable things in the world. But my point is, I like that the short-term trend of Bitcoin moving up, volume coming back into the space, and volatility is aligning with what we would expect to see here at the end of a bear market, moving on into an accumulation phase, and sitting somewhere right now around where we would be seeing a new bull market forming, to be totally honest, because all this time right here, and you could even argue all of this time right here, has been an accumulation phase, and a lot of times you don't see accumulation phase last more than about 9 months. We're only about 3 months into it, but you also have to remember what we've also talked about. This entire market has really been on fast forward. This bear market has happened a lot quicker than the one that happened in 2014 and 15. So with all that in mind, I want to throw it back to you guys and ask your opinions on what you think is going to happen here. Do you guys think that we're about to see some kind of rally that could bring us out of this accumulation phase? Do you think it's a fake out? Do you think I've blown all of this out of proportion? And if I have, do you think that what I said is valid nonetheless, even if it doesn't end up happening? I'm very interested in hearing your opinions in the comment section down below, as always. And if you guys want to learn how to do technical analysis, it is a very, very good skill. I do it all the time, even when I'm not recording videos, because it's actually quite fun, and it is very rewarding, and it's very, very good when you're trying to understand where markets will go so you can figure out how to do your trades properly, which is why I made the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. If you guys want to learn how to do cryptocurrency TA, there's a link to check out the Academy in the description down below. You can click it and see what we have to offer, decide if you like what you see, and then you can go ahead and join. We have a lot of good content there, and I'm going to be rolling out another 10 videos over the course of the next 3.5 weeks or so. By the end of November, the number of videos in the course will be jumping from 20 to 30, but so will the price, guys. The price is currently $99. It's going to be moving to $149. So if you guys want to get in before that price rises, you will be getting all future content. I would recommend doing that in the next 2 weeks or so before I go ahead and have to up the price just because of the popular demand. Anyway, guys, if you did enjoy this video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.